Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Class 9. Today the topic is binomial nomenclature. In chapter number 3, that is biodiversity, and our topic of today is the binomial nomenclature. What is binomial nomenclature? It's a two naming system, as it is shown on the board, that the two naming system of the living organism is known as binomial nomenclature. This is a system in which each organism get the two names, and those names will be scientific name, considered as scientific name throughout the world. The organism can only be called, if we are talking worldwide, it only be the scientific names that each organism get through this system. The two naming system consists of two parts. Number one, the genus, and the second one is the species. Genus name or generic name, and then the species name. Each organism will have two names throughout the world, and that is the genus name and the species name. This system was first of all introduced by Carolus Linnaeus in his book, that he gave these two names which can be accepted by all other scientists at that time. Until now we accept this system and call each organism with that specific scientific name. He also drawn some rules for this system, and these rules are: number one, that printed in italic or underline, like Homo sapiens. Each organism will get the specific name, and that name, if we want to write that name, it will be in, if we want to print that name, it must be in italic form. Or if we want to write that name with the hand, so it must be underlined, from which it is shown that it is the scientific name of that organism. The second rule is the genus name will be capital and species name will never be capitalized. When we want to write the scientific name according to binomial nomenclature, it must be write in capital the generic name, and then following the species name with a small letter. The third one rule is if many species share the same generic name, it will be written as like this. For example, the generic name is common to many species. Like here we mention E. coli, and E is the generic name which denote Escherichia. Escherichia is the generic name, and it must be shared by many other bacteria. So if we want to write the name of this special bacteria, we must not be write it Escherichia coli. We just mention Escherichia with the capital E, then dot, then coli, and coli is the species name. So if many species share the same generic name, we should not write the generic name with the full name, but only the first letter of that generic name with the capital, and then following the species name. Now we will come to the significance of the binomial nomenclature, that why this system was introduced. So first, the problem was that common name create some problems, because we have a lot of languages, different languages, and each organism is recognized in each language differently. For example, if we notice only the onion, that is in Urdu it is known as piyaz. But in other languages in Pakistan, some people call it ganda, some people call it basal or vasal. So many confusions arise if you are talking about a single species and it has many names in different languages. It is difficult to recognize the species. So scientific come with the solution that they recognize an international system of naming, and that is binomial nomenclature. It is an international system in which a species is given a two naming system, a two naming name, and that will be recognized throughout the world internationally. So the problem was solved with this system. Another reason for the introducing of the binomial nomenclature is the common names have no scientific basis. No scientific basis means that sometime an organism can be considered a species of special group according to the name, but that species will not be a member of that group. Like some organism, as we know that some invertebrates that are silverfish, jellyfish, crayfish, but they are not fishes. As their name mention that the fish come in their name, but they are not included in the category of the fishes, they are invertebrates. So the common name have no scientific basis. Maybe they show a special group, but that will not suitable to that organism. So for solving this problem, each organism is giving special generic name related to their genera and the species name related to the species. So according to this system, we can recognize the genera and species of that special organism. The next, it gives stability of names. The names must be stable, and throughout the world the organism will be recognized with this system, the two naming system, having no problem of language, having no problem of common name. Like the onion, that is Allium cepa for all human in the world. House crow, the scientific name is Corvus splendens, and etc. Many organisms got this two naming system throughout the world. Now the next topic of this chapter is small, and that is the status of virus. Virus is a living organism, but the scientist doesn't give them any kingdom, and they does not include this organism into 5 kingdom classification. What was the reason? That it is on the borderline between living and non-living. It can be considered as living, and sometimes it shows the non-living characteristics. The living characteristic of the virus is the presence of the DNA or RNA, which are living material. The material, the nucleic acid, if present inside anything, it can be considered as living. Number 2, it can reproduce in living cells. When it goes inside the living cells, they start their reproduction, they start their reproductive cycle, and they produce many copies of them. And as a result, they cause diseases in living organisms, in living cell in which they enter and they start their life cycle. So all these characteristics shows that viruses are living. But at the same time, some characteristic which prove viruses as a non-living is the acellular, having no cellular body like other organism, they have proper cell, either plant cell or animal cell. They have their cell membrane or cell wall, cytoplasm, inside cytoplasm many organelles. But this viruses have no cellular structure, having no cell, having no cytoplasm, having no organelles inside them. So with this character, viruses are considered to be acellular. The second one is that they can be crystallized, like the non-living material, like the sugar, like the salts, like the many material. They can be crystallized, they can be converted into crystals. And when they are outside the living cell, they show no activity. It means that all their activities depends on other living organisms, and outside the living organisms, outside the living cells, they show no activity. So for these three reasons, they are considered to be non-living organisms. Along with these viruses, some other organisms like the prions and virids are also present in nature, and prions are the organisms that are composed only of protein, while the virids are the organism consist of only DNA or RNA, but they can show the characteristic of the living organisms.